This is an actual live demonstration of the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central solution. As such, we have edited the video to remove any client-specific information, but you can hear our consultant and sales staff's responses where appropriate. However, we asked permission to keep some of the client's feedback at the end of the video because it isn't every day that someone tells you that your accounting demonstration is sexy. We hope you have a similar reaction and find this demonstration educational. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below or submit them by email using the contact form on our website in the video description.
As you can see, I am logged into Business Central. So I've logged in through Office 365, and that basically brings me into the Office 365 platform where I can actually access any of the applications associated with the platform, like Outlook and Excel and Word, Power BI, all those applications. But then I also have access to our Dynamics 365, and that's where I launch Business Central. That's how I arrived here. As an overview, I want to talk about how I'm logged in. Based on my access rights and my permissions, I am logged in as the business manager role. If I go to my settings here, you'll see that the role that I'm currently logged in as is the business manager role. This role is the most inclusive. That's why we use it for our demoing process. But there are other roles that we can assign to our users that kind of directs them to the appropriate functions for their particular position. I've got an accountant role and I've got sales relationship manager roles, project manager. Based on what role we assign the individual, their presentation of their menus will reflect the appropriate screens and functionality within the system. There's some other things that I can see here as well. I'm going to change my business date to today. This is demo data, so it always throws our dates way out there, but I'm going to just change this to today. And I can simply just click a T in here. Now this will default, when you're in a live production environment, it defaults to today's date. But for today's purpose, I'm going to set that for today so that our demo is appropriate for the date. You can also see the company that I'm logged into. So if I was in a multi-company environment, I could select between the companies and log in. And again, those would be based on our permissions. Maybe I give access to our users to a specific company. That would be the only company that they would see in that selection. And it would just log into the last company they were accessing. So just a little bit about how I'm logging in and what drives the presentation of the menu is really based on that role and my permissions. Looking through here, again, we can see what company I'm logged into. So here's our Cronus company, that's our demo environment. And across the top, you can see the different modules that I have access to. So I can jump into my finance. Here are all the screens or some of the screens that are relating to the finance module, cash management, sales, purchasing, and so on. There's a really nice area here. This is the Intelligent Cloud Insights, and I'll jump into this briefly. Microsoft has built in some artificial intelligence behind the scenes to kind of analyze the data that's going into the system and give us feedback or present to us information that we can then act on. As an example, I've got these insights right here. And you can see it says 6 of your customers are late with their payments to you. Rather than going into the system and mining for data, I can actually act on the information that's being presented to me. I can drill into this because it's a hyperlink. So if I open that up, it will actually show those customers that are late. Now I can start actually acting on these late invoices. I can drill into them, call up the customer. I can email these invoices right from here just by clicking a button. It's very interactive and really activity driven rather than, like I mentioned, mining for the data and trying to find who's late. The system's already telling me these types of things. And then we can also look on the other side of the fence. We have 15 invoices that weren't paid by us on time. So I might want to look at my accounts payable, find out why these invoices are late and why we haven't paid them yet. Again, it's the system is kind of going through, mining that data, looking at those due dates and presenting to me in a logical fashion information that I can act on. Down here we have a Power BI area. I don't have any reports linked here, but Power BI is a reporting tool that we use. We have some out-of-the-box KPIs, our cash available, our sales profitability and net income, and so on, inventory value. Those KPIs are presented to us right at our fingertips, easy to find, easy to see. I can always get back to my dashboard by clicking on the company name up here. As you can see, I've got some headlines up here, and this will scroll through. It'll tell us our largest order for the past week, our most active customer, our best-selling item. This is kind of like a ticker tape that scrolls through and again presents different information to us that we can then interact with. So I could click on it. If it says, hey, this is your top-selling item, I can actually drill into that and see the activities related to that inventory or that item that has been sold. And then we've got some other indicators down here. We can see overdue sales invoices. I've got overdue purchase invoices. Looking at both sides of the fence, our revenue side and our expenses side, I can see all that information right from here. And I can drill into this, look at the details that make up these numbers. And as I scroll down, you can see I've got other active tiles. I don't have to refresh this screen. As transactions happen in the system, these tiles are updated immediately. So whatever I'm looking at here is the most current information, and it's active live information. As I scroll down further, if we have approval processes in place, here's where I can see things that might be awaiting my approval. And if I've submitted something for approval, I can see whether it's still out there awaiting approval. I've got that information right here as well. And then further down, more insights. Again, these are driven by Power BI reports. They're interactive. I can click on them and drill into the information right from there. I'm going to back up out of that. Got another area here that I can identify or at least bring to the screen here. I can actually set different GL accounts. Maybe I'm in charge of or responsible for certain expense accounts. I might want to have those right on my dashboard so I can monitor them and track activities that are going in there. So rather than having to run reports and things like that, I can actually see and drill into those account activities right from my dashboard. And further down, I've got a trial balance widget here that's just presented on my dashboard and more Power BI reports. A lot of information being presented to us just at the dashboard level, and we can use that information to just kind of start our day. You log in, hey, let me just start looking at our sales, where we're at with our purchasing. This is really a good place to get a pulse of what's going on as far as activity in the business as far as that goes. And then I've got some quick actions here. I can start a sales quote, sales order, purchase orders, purchase invoices, those types of things. So I can see all that information from here. This is the financial side of the presentation. I'm going to walk you through customer aspect. We're going to start with a customer. We're going to do a sales order, fulfill that sales order, receive the cash, so the full AR cycle. And then we're going to jump into the accounts payable side. Same thing, we're going to run through a purchase invoice, look at the vendor card, look at that information. And then we're going to do some review of the financial impacts of those transactions so we can see it from a general ledger level. And how do we analyze those transactions once they've hit our general ledger. Just another note, I have the ability to personalize these menus. There are certain screens that I'm always using. I can line them up right here so I don't have to drive through the menus to get to customers. I can have certain screens that are always available to me right here. So I can go to customers right from here. So let's take a look at one of our customers. I've got a customer, and this is going to bring up the full list. And I want to talk about lists here for just a moment because they're very important and very useful tool within Business Central. If I'm looking for a customer, I can just start typing whether I know their name or their customer number. So I typed in DF, and DF Rio is the customer I'm really looking for. Notice as soon as I start typing that and start getting closer, it pairs down that list based on what I'm putting in the search window there. Very helpful. I can view this customer list in a few different ways. If you look at the list over here, I can use a list. I can do tall tiles or just regular tiles. So if I do the tall tiles, we'll show you what that looks like. Kind of cool. We can put an image for our customers on our tiles here. And then it's also presenting us some information, right? It's showing us what that customer's current balance is. And so I can highlight that customer. And if you'll notice on the right pane over here, when I've highlighted a customer, I also get more information about ongoing sales orders, posted invoices, payments, and things like that. So I can really see all the activity relating to that particular customer just by highlighting them in the list. And this information pane over here really presents a lot of data to us. And I can hide that pane as well. So if I want more real estate, maybe I want to see more customers, I can actually hide that information pane, and now I've got more customers. Or I can actually look at smaller tiles and see a lot more customers. So I can actually go through that list pretty quickly that way. A lot of our customers like to see things in a list, so we're going to go back to that function. We can export data out to Excel. So this is, again, showing that tight integration to the Office suite of products and with Business Central. If I want to make some major edits to our customer list, that rather than going through and doing some export import process or going one by one, maybe I need to update payment methods or something like that, I can actually take my customer list and I can edit that list in Excel. So it's basically going to open up Excel in an editable fashion, a linked data set within Excel. So I'll go ahead and enable editing here, and you'll see it's actually creating that connection to our environment. So it's logging in to Business Central, hitting the data, and then it's going to present that same customer list in Excel for me. And what the benefit here is, I can make a bunch of updates and then publish them right back to the system, have that all done with using Excel. So I'm going to do a very simple update here like this. Let's do our Canon Group Inc. Maybe they're not Canon Group Inc. They've changed to Corp. Very simple update there. I can publish that change back to Business Central, and that has been done. So I'll go ahead and close this. A very quick edit of our customer list. And here's that Canon Group Inc. It was Inc. I'm going to just hit F5. And well, I didn't even hit it. I clicked on it. It just refreshed that for me. But imagine, we use this tool all the time when we're implementing, as well as when customers need to do mass updates. Like I mentioned, payment terms is kind of a popular one. Let's set everyone to this term. I can run right through. Or maybe I want to set a customer posting group, for example. We have a lot of functionality and the benefit of using Excel to quickly make those types of updates. Really a powerful tool. It does enforce the business rules, right? So like you mentioned, I cannot just update, hey, this customer now owes us $1 million. It has to be, it has to follow the business rules. So there are limitations to what we can do, which is a good thing, right? So it has to follow the correct business rules, but the fields that are editable, I can pull that information out and make those changes in Excel and publish them back into Business Central. Really, anywhere you see a list here, and actually in some of the transactions, you have this functionality as well.
Yeah, there's even things like journal entries you can do using this Excel update, or updating the lines on a sales order. There's a lot of places where this functionality is available.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and look at our customer. So like I mentioned, I'm going to look for that DF Rio. If I can spell correctly, there we are. So here's our customer. We're going to look at a few different things here. One thing that I'm going to talk about briefly is the ability to attach a dimension to this customer. Let's look at dimensions, and I'm going to talk about those for just a moment. A dimension is a tag that we can attach to a transaction or any record, like we're seeing here, a customer record or an inventory item. We can attach a dimension value that later helps us report on that. And I'll give you the example here. This customer is part of our customer group QVC. Now we're tracking a few different customer groups. We got QVC, we got Walmart, we got Amazon. This customer is a QVC customer. I want to track that, and that will give me, in the end, I'll be able to now report on, hey, what sales came in from my QVC customers, and then what department is this customer really associated with. So I want any transactions that are associated with this customer, I want them to hit sales department as well as our QVC customer group. Again, these tags are going to be applied to any transaction that I use for this customer. So I don't have to enter those things on all the transactions. It's going to pull in from the customer when I use this record. Very helpful, and you'll see later the benefits of using this as we drive into the chart of accounts. We'll go ahead and take a look at a few other things here. We've got how are we applying our payments. We're going to apply the oldest. So if I receive a customer payment and just let it auto apply, it's going to apply to the oldest invoice. Again, we have an image here we can drop in for our customer. We have the information pane that tells us how the customer is doing, any activities associated with that customer. I can expand this out and look at the posting groups that we have, another way that we can group our customers. So without getting into too much detail, these kind of drive the sales account, the GL accounts that are associated with this customer when I book a sale against it. You can also drill into the details. So notice this customer has a balance. I can quickly just look at the activities that make up that balance. Here they are. I'll close this pane so we can see the activities. These are the remaining amounts. We've had some payments applied apparently, but we've got some remaining amounts here that we're going to take care of here in a moment. So I can see what that outstanding balance is, and here are the invoices that make up that outstanding balance. Very good. All right, let's do a sales order. I think I've got a sales order started for this customer. Understood how our customer is set up. Now we're going to actually process a sales document. So I've got a sales order out here. Here it is for our DF Rio customer. And on the sales order, we can see the due date. I'm going to change this. Well, I'll leave it alone. We'll just confirm that we're using through 2022. And I'm going to change this to today. And yes, and I'm going to show more. I want these dates to be today as well. And notice I'm just clicking a T in there for today. So there's a lot of those types of date parameter things or shortcuts that we can use in our date fields. So very, very nice functionality. All right, so here is the sales order. Notice it brings in all the customer information, the address, the contact for that customer. We're doing our posting date. I've selected the item that we're selling to the customer. So we've got this Lux Dermapore Lux kit, and they are purchasing 3 of them. And we're going to go ahead and put this on here. What's nice about Business Central is at any point when I'm doing a transaction, I can preview the posting so I know what's going to happen before I actually do it. So if I go to posting, I can preview posting. This will kind of tell me, hey, do you have everything in order? What's going to happen here? So we've got our journal entry. I can take a look at that and see what's going to happen here. I can see that it's going to hit our finished goods. So it's, let's expand this open a minute. So it's going to pull out of finished goods, the $75. That's our cost for that particular item. Here's our cost of goods sold. What's debiting that? And then we're hitting our sales account. So this is my retail sales. And then we're crediting accounts receivable is what that's going to be. So we get a really good view before we even post the transaction of what's going to happen. If everything is good, and I can look at this, one other thing I want to show you is the availability of this item. Now we do have the ability to pull from multiple locations. All my inventory is in a non-identified location. That's why I'm leaving this blank. But I could select from one of my many warehouses, right? So I might have warehouses across the country, and this particular customer, maybe I always ship from a specific warehouse. I can have that set up to default in based on the customer and have a specific location defaulting. For example, if this was a QVC customer, maybe I just pull from the QVC warehouse. So that can be defaulted from that. If I'm looking at the line, I can go and I can look at item availability by location. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at that and see where my inventory is. And we can see that we've got all of our inventory. Like I mentioned, it's all in this unspecified location. That's why we're leaving our location blank. But if I wanted to determine, hey, maybe the main location that I was going to pull from doesn't have any inventory, well, I can look here and see, well, where should I pull it from? I can determine where that's going to go. That just gives me really good visibility of where the inventory is for this particular item and allows me to fulfill this sales order without any issues. From here, let's go ahead and if everything looks good, we're going to go ahead and post this invoice. I can do a couple different things. I can do everything at one time, meaning I can ship and invoice it, or I could just ship it. Back in my warehouse, we would run a pick list or pick instruction that would tell the warehouse, hey, pick this item or these items for this particular customer. It's going to give them the information that they need, and then they would fulfill the order. I'm assuming that's all being done in one sweep. So I'm going to go ahead and just ship and invoice this.
Let me just jump in here.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So in your situation, because you're using a third-party warehouse and they're doing the shipment for you, when you get the notification of, hey, we've shipped this order, you would just be coming in here and going and doing the ship and invoice, because you wouldn't have two separate processes within your organization. The third-party warehouse is going to do the ship. Once it comes back to you, you can do this all at once.
Excellent. Good feedback. All right. Let's go ahead and ship and invoice. And essentially what this is going to do is complete both sides of the equation. It's going to pull our inventory out of stock. It's going to book that entry, and it's going to create the accounts receivable side of our transaction for our customer. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it's creating that. And now we have a posted sales invoice. So that's what this is saying. This order has now been moved to a posted sales invoice. And that indicates that now we have an accounts receivable out there for this particular customer, and everything is done on this particular order. I'm going to go ahead and, let's take a look at it. So I'll just say, yes, let's take a look at that. It's going to bring me right to that posted sales invoice. Here it is. If I wanted to email this to the customer, I could go ahead and do that just by clicking on print and send. I'll go to email, and that's going to generate a PDF attachment, which you can see here. So the sales invoice is attached. It also creates an invoice, and in this case, I have a PayPal link. If we were using PayPal as the payment processor for this customer, they could actually just click that link in the email, pay off the invoice, and settle the account at that point. So we can do all that. And this would typically default in, I don't have a contact on this particular customer, but it would default in the contact email address. Essentially, I wouldn't have to do anything other than just confirm everything looks good, hit OK, and that would get emailed off to the customer. Very easy. I don't have to print something, scan it back in, save it to a location, attach it to an email, and all those other steps that we've done in the past to get documents out to our customers. All in one, right here, one button, and email it off. Very cool. And that's throughout the system as well. We can do that with our purchase orders to our vendors, as well as emails to our customers with invoices and sales orders as well. Now our customer has a sales order out there. Like we do, let's go ahead and take a look at our customer aging, right? Let's look at the report. Let's look at the effect of those transactions. Go ahead and look at our financial report and our customer aging, so our aged accounts receivable. And we'll look at this. I'm going to move this out a little bit. We'll go to make sure I capture it, 4/30/21. And I'm going to filter it to just our customers. So our Rio. Grab him so we don't have to wait too long for this. Oh, I wanted to do detail. We're going to see summary, but I think you'll get it. So it's summarizing our transaction here. Here's our invoice that we just booked. I did run it as summary, so we're seeing a single line, but the detail would just list out each invoice. But you can see here's the aging, so that all looks great. And we've got all the information that we need there for our customer. Now we're going to go ahead and process the cash receipt. Now you may do transactions immediately. This one's going through like an accounts receivable process. but we could settle this right at the beginning if they had, processed through with a credit card and paid the invoice. But we're going to go ahead and make a cash receipt for this particular customer. I'm going to pull up our general cash receipt and we'll book the entry to apply some cash. All right, so I've kind of pre-filled some information in here. So we're going to receive a payment for our customer, DF Rio. And I can do this a couple different ways. Maybe they just sent me kind of a one-off check and I want it to apply against whatever invoices are out there, the oldest first, right? So we have 276, but I think the total was 300 and some dollars. Let's just say they sent us $300 and they're just chipping away at their balance. So I can see this, notice it's indicating, hey, this customer has some overdue invoices. I can look at those from here if I wanted to drill into it. Like I mentioned, I can preview the posting, right? I want to see, what is this thing going to do? Is it applying to the invoices correctly? So I can actually look at this and let's preview the posting and see what it's going to be doing. Oh, I got to put the amount in correctly first. A payment is a negative amount in this screen, so it's reducing the customer's balance. So now let's go ahead and preview post here. So when I look at this, you can see I've got some detailed customer ledger entries. And that's what I want to look at because this is going to show me what it's applying to, right? So I had those 3 open invoices out there for $748 and this 21. Well, I had that invoice out there for $276. We can see that it's kind of partially applying to that. So here's our $300 is basically what this makes up. So we can see how it's applying those, and it's going to leave a remaining balance on that last, our most current invoice. So that's demonstrating that it is paying off those oldest invoices first and just kind of running out that $300 against those invoices. Yeah, great question. I wanted to show you the auto apply too, but yes, we can come in here and now I see the list of invoices. So I could directly apply this $300. Maybe these are in dispute. Maybe we're just writing off sales tax. We accidentally charged them or something like that. So I can say, you know what, let's apply it against this one. And we can manually charge that. Notice now the balance is $24. So I could apply that against these. I can go in here and manually apply those costs as well. Good question. So I can set the customer to auto apply by oldest or manually apply those invoices. In this case, I'm just going to let this one go. I'm going to go ahead and post this and move that through. Yes, we do. Great. So that has posted successfully. So now if we look at that customer's remaining balance, we'll look at the aging one more time. We'll look at the details for that particular customer. Let's just look at the trial balance. That kind of might give us some good indication, and we'll do our DF Rio. Cool. And I'm going to do a date range 12/31/21. So here's our ending balance is the $12.80. We applied the $300 cash to that $276 invoice. So any questions on the accounts receivable side of things? We looked at the customer, we looked at the sales order, applied the cash, and reviewed the customer balance through the aging. All good there? All right. All right, let's take a look at the other side of the fence, our vendors. I'm assuming you guys do a lot of marketing. There's a lot of advertising in your business. So you got to get the word out there that you guys are #1. So we do a lot of advertising. So we're going to go ahead and look at one of our popular vendors for billboard advertising, which is Lamar. So let's go ahead and pull those guys up real quick. So here's our Lamar company. And on the vendor, just like on the customers, the things that we can do here, we can assign particular dimensions, and this is going to our marketing department. So any transactions that I do with Lamar are going to be tagged with that marketing dimension. Again, that gives me that reporting ability in the end to say, hey, how is our marketing department doing? cost-wise. We've got a budget that we have to track against, and this allows us to do that. Let's take a look. I've got a purchase order, I believe, out there, or actually a purchase invoice, excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and pull up purchase invoices. Here's our Lamar advertising purchase invoice. Now we can start with a purchase order. Just in this case, I started with a purchase directly to the invoice. We've contracted for some advertising. And you'll notice down here, I'm just hitting the general ledger account. So I'm not purchasing inventory items from them. I'm basically just purchasing advertising, which goes directly to our GL account. So if I'm doing that, I can, again, either type in the number if I know it, or I could just start typing advertising, and it will start driving down to that particular GL account. So that's how I can derive that. And you'll notice as I scroll over, I can actually see that the Department of Marketing is defaulted in, and this comes from that vendor setting. So since I've set the marketing department in that dimension, it is now automatically populating that information on the detail lines of this invoice. So that tells us, hey, this is going to the right place when I'm doing my postings here. So let's go ahead and process this one through. We're going through AP here, and we're going to go ahead and hit this. I'll go ahead and post. Again, we would have the ability to preview post this. I'm going to just go ahead and run this through. All right, so that's posted through. Everything looks great. I'm not going to view that particular invoice, but just like we did the customer side, we can run our aging and look at our reports here. Let me go to reports, and let's go to our account aged accounts payable, and we'll look at this for our particular vendor. Let me make sure I grab include that particular. We'll look at the details, and we're going to go to our, and let's take a look at this. Okay, so we can see we have 2 invoices due out there for Lamar. They're 30 days because I've run this as of April 30th. So it's already aged those invoices out of the current bucket and now has put them into the up to 30 days due. So we can see that's where our current position with this particular vendor. Let's go ahead and pay the vendor. So we would do that through our payment journals. So I'll pull that up. That's through cash management. I can actually get to any one of the screens that I've been jumping through. I can do the global search and do payment journals here as well. And you don't have to type all the words. You can just type part of the stuff and it will pull it up in this list. So there's many ways to get to the areas that I'm at, aside from just going through the menu here as well. Pull up our general purchase payment journal, excuse me, and we'll go ahead and prepare this journal. So whether you guys do a weekly check run or how often you do your check runs, we can prepare this by selecting or letting the system suggest vendor payments. When I select this, it brings up a options window that says, hey, pull any payments that are due up to and including whatever date I put here. So I'm going to pull in 5/1 because depending on the terms associated with that particular invoice, the due date is going to drive that. So this is going to be matched up with the due date. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Posting date's going to be 5/21. That all looks good. And I'm going to filter to, I think it is on that vendor. Let's just confirm that. Yep. So I'm going to just run this for Lamar only. I am going to pull the cash out of my checking account, and we're going to use a computer check to pay this vendor. So let's go ahead and see what it pulls in. So here is the invoice, one of the invoices that we had for Lamar. We can see it's past due. That's why it's red. So we can see that these things are in there and ready. So I'll go ahead and just print this check. It's that easy. So I'm going to go ahead and hit check and print. And we've got our checking account. So just confirming what bank account we're using, the next check number. So if I needed to adjust that for any reason, I have the ability to do that there. And I'll go ahead and print. Now this will bring up a PDF print of the check where we would then send it to the printer and align with our forms. And so it's already printed. So if I scroll over here, you can see that the check has printed. At this point, I can go ahead and post it. Now, if something were to happen at the printer, maybe I forgot to put the check stock in or whatever, I could void right here and just reprint real quickly. I don't have to do any accounting functions at this point. A void of the printing is not a journal entry, which is great news for everybody that's ever had to reprint checks because they printed on white paper. It gives you a lot of functionality and flexibility when you're actually doing the check printing process. So if all looks good and the check numbers aligned with the check stock, I'm all set there. I would just go ahead and post this through. So let's go ahead and post this, and that will take care of this entry. Posting date is, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to continue anyway. So now we have cleared out that vendor payment. So now that vendor's account should be up to date. And again, if we run the aging report for our accounts payable for that particular vendor, and we should have one remaining invoice, I believe, since we only captured one of those in our payment. And I'll grab Lamar here. There we are. And we'll preview this. So how do these transactions look when we're reviewing the general ledger, and what are the tools that we can use in order for us to analyze accounts and drill into some data, and what are the features that we can take advantage of with Business Central? So I'm going to drill into our chart of accounts, and we will kind of take you through some of the functionality here and some of the ways that our customers are able to use the chart of account, not only to just look at the account numbers and look at data, but really it's more of an analysis tool that we can really dive into and take advantage of some of the functionality that's built in. So I'm going to go ahead and hold up the chart of accounts here. Again, the search capabilities in Business Central are super strong, so I can go up here and I can find an account number or an account that I'm trying to review, and I want to look at the advertising account just as an example. So I can simply type in advertising, or if I knew the account number, I could drill into that as well. So you can see here, I've got a balance of this account, and here's the net change for that account. And I could simply drill into it from here, but I'm going to back up for just a second, and I want to show some features of the filter ability in the general ledger or in the chart of accounts. So again, notice we have balances here identified for each account. As I scroll through, you can see the activities here. Now I can use this filter function over here, and I can either filter the list, meaning specific GL accounts, or I can filter the totals. Right now, these totals are really point in time, right? This is what the current activity is, or the current balance of these accounts. But maybe I want to look at a particular period of time. I can then go into the filter totals by and select a date filter. So within here, we've got some filters that I can take advantage of. Maybe I want to do period 1 through period 8, for example, and you'll notice once I tab off this, it will supplement those characters for the actual date range that I indicated using the period functions. So now notice the net change values have been updated. They are only reflecting transactions that have occurred within that date range. So this becomes a very useful tool for analyzing data and really querying and drilling into things, because I can go in here now and actually drill into whatever this transaction is. I can drill in from here, and now it's going to bring me back to that actual entry. So I can see this was a sales transaction, and I can drill in further from there. I can actually see the dimensions that were affected by that transaction. The chart of accounts becomes more of just a list. It becomes an actual tool in our system when we're doing account analysis. So with that, I'm going to go back and look at another feature, and this is going to demonstrate the power of using the dimensions. We have the ability to actually look at balances by dimension. And remember the dimensions, just as an example, we have departments. So I charge different costs to different departments, and that's going to match up with my budget. And I can, drill into those activities. So I can take this chart of accounts, or our chart of accounts, and actually look at balances by dimension. Here's my GL balance by dimension. I'll go ahead and select that. And I can put in the date filter for which, and this is wide open, so this is grabbing a couple years of data. And I'm going to leave the account filter off, but I could certainly drill into a specific account. And then here I have the option to show columns by a particular dimension. And in this case, we're going to select the department. Notice I could go by period, so I can actually look at my GL by period in this fashion as well. But let's take a look at the department dimensions. This will give us sort of a matrix or a pivot table view of what our chart of account or trial balance actually looks like. So you'll notice across the top, I've got the different departments identified. So I've got my admin department, my marketing, production, and sales. And then here's my GL accounts. I can scroll down into the expense side of things and really identify and analyze my budgets, or actually the activities in these accounts, and drill into these transactions right from here. Let me just find a fairly decent example. So here you can see we've got some activities that were driven to the sales department for our cost of sales. I can go down to the expenses down here. I've got some marketing expense, and I believe that's our advertising account. That makes all good sense. And, you know, this is a very easy way to say, hey, we know we don't ever charge rent expense to our marketing department, for example. So this is a really quick way to see the activities and what departments they've been charged to without having to run a series of different reports and drilling in that way. I've got this stuff all at a glance. And from here, I can again drill in and see the actual activities or the transactions that make this up for those accounts. So very.
Hey, Brian.
Yes, go right
Sorry
ahead.
to interrupt you. First of all, this is super sexy. I love it. I'm sitting here and I'm like, am I the only person who's like, this is really awesome? But hey, once you get into clicking, if you can do that again, clicking into the 7,300, can you actually populate the invoice? Because I see the invoice number is listed, but can you actually see the invoice even further?
Absolutely. Just hold on to your hats right now. All right. So I'll go to the, actually, hang on. Let me get into I can go to find entries. So what's cool, the posted purchase invoice, this is what you're talking about. I can actually see the actual document right from here. Now, here it is. That's the Lamar advertising. Here's the full invoice, just like we entered it initially. So yes, you can drill right into that. And I appreciate that comment about how I'm not supposed to say words like that during demos, but that was a very good term. So thank you for that. But you're right. I mean, these types of things are, you know, the exciting parts. Hey, it's accounting stuff, right? But hey, when you get these types of functionalities, it's pretty darn cool. So I appreciate the feedback on that. I can't take credit for it, but I have the same passion as what you've just acknowledged. So I think this is pretty cool stuff.
Right now, we are having to go to multiple locations to find this data. And there's always, you know, there's the unknown if it's accurate, who entered it, the accountability, the location. It just makes it really hard for someone who is not in finance day to day to find the information they need. So it looks really user friendly from the outside looking in, and it alleviates a lot of the manual, you know, Excel manipulation that we're doing today. So cool. Thank you for walking me through that.
No, that's awesome.
Very
great.
Exciting.
Feedback. Thank you, because you know the first time I saw this, I'm so appreciative of your excitement, because that's how I felt with this. I'm like, this is a win for anybody that has to analyze accounts. To me, I'm like, man, this is gold. So thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. The ability for the application to scale with your business, right, is really maintained in the dimensions. So we've got, you know, these particular dimensions identified right now. Well, let's say you bring on a new division. I can simply add division here as a dimension and identify, you know, maybe we've got our Western division, our Eastern division, Southern division. I can immediately start posting transactions to that as soon as I add that dimension and the dimension values. And now I'm able to start transacting against that. Scalability wise, it's super easy. We don't have to go through and, back in, other applications, when we did add a new department, we would have to go through and add multiple GL accounts that include that department in the segment, if you will. And that takes a pretty good effort. Usually they call like us, and we would import or update their chart of accounts to include that. Well, here, all we have to do is go into dimension values, and maybe we added a new department. So now we've got an engineering department, and I can immediately start transacting. That's all I needed. I added engineering in there, and now I can start putting transactions in and tagging that department with anything. So it's immediate, and it's right now I've got that available to us, and we can start reporting on it with those transactions. Scalability wise, that is super easy to really maintain and make the business very agile.
It's also important to understand that you have a number of those different dimensions that he was talking about, like we had business group, product group, things like that. Those are all simultaneously available. So you might have some sections of your business like sales, top line revenue type stuff that you want to break up by both product line and channel. As an example, I have my 5 different product lines. I sell them direct, I sell them through Shopify, I sell them through Amazon, I sell them through spas and hotels. So I not only want to track my revenue by the product line themselves, but also by the channel. So those can both be dimensions on any transaction, every single sales invoice, any cost of goods sold, everything that goes through, those can both be simultaneously set up that way. It's more than a matrix because it's multiple dimensions.
Right.
You can have lots of different dimensions and slice and dice and break down the data in the ways that make sense for the different areas of the business.
Okay, any other questions on the chart of accounts before I move on to account schedules, which is like our financial statements? So under finance, now I'm going to go to my account schedules. So think of these schedules as your income statement, your balance sheet, my comparative to my budget, those types of reports. But I've got an income statement here. And what we can do is we create these statements by using a row and a column kind of format, and we can determine what the column looks like and how we want to present the data. But the functionality, again, behind these is very powerful. So I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to pull up the income statement. I'm just going to do the overview, and this basically gives me the opportunity to set a date range. I'll go ahead and I think I can, I'm going to go from 1/1/20 to, and I'll just do I'm going to go wide open again because I can't remember where our data is. So I'm going to leave that wide open. But notice what we have here. We've got, again, that dimension filter. So I've got my department filter. So I can look at this income statement by department or by another dimension if I wish to. So notice if I show more, it's not only showing me the department filter, I've got cost center, there's a project. So these are different dimensions that we have available that I've set up that I can then report on and drill into. So once again, if I go into my marketing dimension filter, now it's filtered that information. There's my 7,300 again. And just like we did in the chart of accounts, I'm able to drill into that. I can actually drill even further back, just like we did on the other entry. Notice everything is a hot link. I can drill back to that and get all the way back to that same purchase invoice document. And that is happening right from my financial statement. Again, these are very powerful, and that's the purpose of the system. It's not to put in data, print reports, review the reports, go back in the system, look at the data. It's really use the reports or use the functions within the system to stay here, not have to deal with paper reports, because I can do all my analysis right here from this particular area. I can drill into these accounts right from here. If you make nice, rich, and this isn't a very rich, I'll admit, not a very rich income statement, but you get the sense. I can have my budget column, my actual column, a difference column, and so on and so forth, but I can review those things by department and dimension within here. And we can get real extensive with the financials, another strong reporting tool within the system. One last thing I want to show you is another reporting tool that we have, and I'm going to go back to my dashboard here. On the home page, I've got a link to my Power BI reports. And I just threw this report together real quick this morning, and that hopefully helps you understand how quick and easy these things are to do. But I'm going to expand this report out because I know you can't see it because I can barely see it. So I'll expand it so that we can all see it. I'll make it page width. But what this really is, just pulling one table, and it's the GL entries table. So it's every entry that hit our general ledger. Notice in the end, it all balances out to zero. So it's like a trial balance. Got all my expenses and income on here. I've got the names listed. It just makes it a little more user friendly. Hey, I've got my rent expense and things like that. I'm not dealing with account numbers. I chose to put the name in there. But I can also click on this. And if I click on this 15,000, it brings up over here, this is the detailed transactions that make up that 15,000. This is.
I wish you could have heard me. I just went, oh, when I saw that. You guys, I feel like this is amazing. I absolutely love that feature.
Awesome.
For somebody who has spent the last year struggling to manage finance from, on Excel templates built 4 years ago for other people. This is, I mean, honestly, like, I feel like a life raft.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and quite honestly, Power BI just gives us such a great tool set to expand, the abilities to report in Business Central. So this is huge stuff, and I appreciate the feedback. And we've got filters on here too. So I clicked on that one, and that kind of created, notice it changed the data over here. So all this is linked together, and I've got this little date range slide so I can just kind of interact with the report right here. Notice how it redrew that whole report for me based on what I'm doing. I can either use the slide or I can click in here and choose a date. Super easy. If I want to look at just my rent expense, I can click on the filter down here, and it summarizes and kind of repaints the whole report for me. Now I'm looking at only that data. Again, I can change the date range. So you can see how interactive this stuff really is. It's so powerful, and I can export the details out. Maybe, hey, I've got exactly what I want. I can take this information, export it out to Excel if I would like, and then do some further analysis with it. Power BI is just a great extension of the Business Central reporting suite. Again, with the Power Platform, these things are included for us to use, and it really gives us a handle on our data. So that is all I had to show. So I want to make best use of Kevin's time here. Again, I know he's got a lot to show. So thank you guys for the feedback, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Kevin, and we'll carry on.